doubt, 'cause I have a hope found in your name. I have a strength found in your grace, your faithfulness, my portrait over and over. Make way through the water, walk me through the fire, do what you are famous for, what you are famous for. Shut the mouths of lions, bring dry bones to life, and do what you are famous for, what you are famous for. I believe in you, God, I believe in you. Release your love inside of me. Unleash your power for all to see. Spirit, come and fall on us over and over. Oh Lord, make way through the water, walk me through the fire, do what you are famous for, what you are famous for. Shut the mouths of lions, bring dry bones to life, and do what you are famous for, what you are famous for. God of exceedingly, God of abundantly, more than we ask or think. Lord, you will never fail. Your name is powerful, your word's unstoppable. All things are possible in you. God of exceedingly, God of abundantly, more than we ask or think. Lord, you will never fail. Your name is powerful, your word's unstoppable. All things are possible in you.
Hi guys, so welcome to Saturday's Luff Lounge. We're live on Facebook. We've got a great show for you today, guys. We've got lots of lovely people from our community and from Red Rose. So everybody get on and like and share to everybody on your Facebook. Let your friends know. Get as many people commenting and watching so that everybody can find out what's going on in their community. It's being held by the North team this week, so you've got me as your guide through this, and we've got the wonderful Lindsay, who's going to be my co-host today. Hi, Lindsay.
Hello, welcome everybody. Thank you for watching. We've already got Chris Rowlands on board. I knew he'd be first in there. The dirty gecko himself is always first on the old agenda. Thank you, Chris, for your support week after week after week. Yeah, so I'm here. If you don't know my face, you've clearly never watched the Luff Lounge before. I'm a regular face on here. I'm here to take down your shout outs, comments. So if you do put a comment, I'll do my best to shout out your name. So when I'm looking down, it's not me being rude. I am trying to scribble away so I don't lose anybody. And before I introduce the rest of the guests, or we introduce it, I'm using this platform to say a big fat thank you to, first of all, Littledale Hall, who I entered a rehab program there in 2019, January. They saved my life, basically. So I don't doubt for a minute there'll be some people on there I did treatment with who are in there now. I've shared it already to their page. So thank you for your continued support and help. And also Red Rose Recovery, because I moved into my lovely little flat by the sea after a year and a half, 6 months treatment, 11 months in the flat. So a year and 10 days ago, I moved in here, and I have continued to stay sober in all of that time. So I am 2+ years, well, it'd be 3 on the 23rd of October. And I couldn't have done it. without Rose Recovery and the amazingly wonderful people I have met along the way. So that's my big opener, and I've done that without crying. That's amazing.
I
So
think that deserves a woo, 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 woo.
Yeah.
we are whoopers.
Yes, Lindsay. This
So-
is what it's about. Red Rose Recovery, massive family. You know, we like to work with all different communities, all different charities, you know, and it's about people getting well. It's about people getting clean, getting sober, and living great, productive lives. And Lindsay, you are just a huge example of that. And you should be really, really proud of yourself. I know all of us.
I'm hoping
all
this,
of us are
I'm
really
hoping
proud
this is
of you.
inspiring some hope, because I wouldn't have said,
Yeah,
I wouldn't have said that back
absolutely.
in 2018.
Absolutely.
Trust me, it wasn't the same lady that you see before you now.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go around my screen and I'll just let everybody introduce themselves so you guys know who we're looking at. First of all, in the corner there, we've got Peter. Hi, Peter.
Hi everyone, great to be here tonight. Great energy coming from the North Luff team. Nice one, guys.
Thank you. On the other corner there, I've got Willie.
Hi, it's Willie's Word of Wisdom tonight again, and I've got quotes about hope.
Fabulous.
I hope you share, please share, and we're here if you want to talk.
Excellent. Thank you, Willie. And then below that, I've got Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Chris Lee from Lancashire County Council Public Health Team. Real pleasure to be with you. It's about a year since I was last here, so I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Amazing. Next on, we've got Louise. Hi, Louise.
Hi, yes, yeah, hi everyone. I'm Louise, I'm from Barrow, and I'm sharing my recovery story.
Amazing. Next up, we've got the lovely Robin in my bottom left corner.
Hi everybody, yeah, I'm Robin Thomas. I'm from Stanley's Community Centre in the West End of Morecambe.
Amazing. And then last but by no means least, I've got Gary Hayes. You have to unmute yourself, Gary.
It was on mute. I've got something to wind him up about next week now when I go in his lovely cafe.
It was bound to happen to one of us, Gary.
Yes, my name's Gary Hayes. I work with First Light Trust. We deal with veterans from the Armed Forces and the Blue Light Services. I'll outline what we do towards the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Fabulous. Excellent. Right, well, that's all the introductions out of the way. So this week we're going to be focusing on hope. Hope's very close to all of our hearts here at Red Rose. I think without hope, you know, many of us wouldn't have got to where we are now. I think all of us on here can appreciate what it's like to be in that place, you know, where we think there is no hope, where we're in that, you know, really dark, awful time in our lives, and we think there's no way to climb out of it. Hopefully after today's show, you know, you're going to be able to have a bit of an idea that actually there is hope out there. You know, there is a solution to your problems. If you just reach out, if you talk about it, if you connect with other addicts, you know, with other alcoholics, with other people that have had mental health difficulties, with other people that have been where you've been, you know, we can pull ourselves out of it together. We do look at hope quite a lot, and we've got a little bit of a mission statement. Hope, we look at this as inspiring people to believe that sustainable recovery is possible for everyone. And that's definitely what we believe here at Red Rose. This covers commitment, respect, community, transformation, and legacy. We're trying to build sustainable recovery as a service. So hopefully that's what you're going to get from today's meeting. Fingers crossed. So without further ado, we'll get started. So Lindsay, who's our first guest tonight?
I do believe it is the incredibly fabulous. We only met this woman, or I only met this woman a couple of weeks ago. We had a visit to Stanley Road, and wow, what a powerful, incredibly strong lady. Her and her team there, the work they do is just blow me away, and has inspired us all to buy a weighted hula hoop. But before we went live on air, and I'm not doing it again live on air unless someone pays me, you know, X amount of pennies. So we've got the incredibly fabulous Robin Thomas.
Hello, well, welcome. Thank you ever so much for inviting me today. Yeah, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about what Stanley's does, where we came from, and why we do it. So I've lived and worked in the West End of Morecambe for coming up 20 years. I worked for a company previously called Signpost, which was a multi-agency resource centre. And in 2013, the doors were closed. The needs of the community were still there, and we knew we needed to set up somewhere else. So myself and a few other volunteers reached out to the community and were offered some space at Stanley's Community Centre. Now, at the time, the community centre was just doing youth work. So we went in with literally just pens, papers and a telephone line and set up support for anybody in the community with absolutely anything. All the work we've done is need-led. So it's the community deciding what sessions we put on and how they're supported, but we accept anybody, no matter where they are in their own journey, work at their own pace. And again, the same thing happened again in 2018. The charity that I then worked for decided to pull out of Stanley's. So myself and 2 other people decided to take the reins and set up a charity in its own rights, which we called Stanley's Community Centre. We've been going from strength to strength over the years. I think one of the most positive things is the fact that everything is done in hand with the local community members. They're involved in the conception, the delivery, the evaluation of everything we do. It's not just somebody on a whim coming in saying, oh, I just want this. We tend to see that there's a need, and we'll speak to people about what they want to fulfill that need going forward. One of the recent examples is we've got some men that would like to start another men's club up. So that's what we're going to be doing shortly. They want a purpose, so they're going to be doing some DIY, some time to be able to talk to other people. It's not always easy for men, and we appreciate they're not big talkers. But I think with the groups that we're working with at the moment, it'll be absolutely fantastic. So we provide youth work, community work and well-being. Everything that we do is aimed at enriching people's life and providing free services to help them reach the 5 ways of well-being. What's really important is our partnerships with both statutory services and third sector. So we work really closely with the council, the police, the doctors and a number of other organisations. We don't fulfil every service ourselves, but because we've worked in the area and understand the needs, we've got contacts who can help in sort of almost every area, and we have dealt with every single item and thing that any problem that anybody's ever had within the centre. I don't think there's anything that we couldn't cope with. We've had people at the beginning of their recovery journey, and I actually helped support somebody through their own recovery. And last year they bought their first house, which was quite an achievement for them. And they're doing really, really well. And they're a manager in the place that they now work, which is amazing. We're supported by Jeanette Edwards, who's in the building, and she's our health and wellbeing worker. Jeanette's got vast experience, both in schools, with adults in her, she's done CBT training. She's got all sorts of things under her belt. We're currently running exercise classes, one being the hula hooping, which the girls will, I think you should get your hula hoop out actually to show it because it's fab. They came in to visit me and we'd just taken delivery of these fab hula hoops. And basically they fit around your body and a weight travels round, and they were absolutely fab. I was so useless at it. You girls were absolutely amazing. We've got that starting. We've got a summer scheme that starts in 2 weeks. Actually, it's not, it's a week on Monday. We've had 2 weeks notice to plan a 4-week summer scheme for young people. So we've got 30 young people that'll be attending every day then. We've got wellbeing walks in the park every Wednesday in Regent Park, and that starts at 3 o'clock, and that's with Jeanette Edwards and Eric Worsley, a social prescriber from Bay Medical Group. Hopefully, I've recently put in funding for a cafe area, so we'll have that space that we'll be able to use for people just to drop in, have a brew, a chat, and also run some groups as well in there. If you want to know more about what we do, I suggest giving us a call on, if you want to put the number in the chat box, or how do you want to do it? Pass on details.
You can just give us a shout out and then Lindsay will write it in the comments for you.
So the best way is my mobile number 0777 587 4413, or you can ring the landline, which is 01524 410076. We've got a website, which is www.stanleyscommunitycentre.co.uk. We're in 5 days a week. There's also a dance school above us that offers adult dancing as well as young people. So we're just here to help with whatever needs are.
Well, I didn't
Amazing.
get any of that information to write down, Sarah. So thank you for saying Lindsay will do. You know how
We're quick enough off the mark, Lindsay, clearly.
you know how rubbish I am with technology. How dare you put me on the spot? And to Robin for putting me under pressure. But I will say, if all the viewers here promise to share and they do a shout out, I'll get the hula hoop out and make a complete idiot of myself, because it won't be the first time. Let's face it. You know what I mean? It's, you know,
I knew
it's
it
not,
wasn't going to take you much persuading, Lindsay.
like and share, and the hula hoop comes out.
Amazing.
If that's what you want to
Let's do
see,
it.
an old lady with a hula hoop.
Thanks so much for sharing with us, Robin. Do you know, as I say, we came down to visit you guys, and I was so impressed, you know, with everything that you offer. I think the most thing that I was impressed with was just how connected and how in tune you are with the guys, you know, that use your services. You know, like you say, you grew up in the area, you know so many people personally, and you really get down and dirty with it. You know, you get right into the problem. You guys don't shy away from anything. You know, whatever it is that somebody comes in with need for, you guys really go above and beyond to try and help them. I really was just really blown away by, you know, not just by the services that you offer, but just how much you guys actually really care. It's not just jobs to you lot, you know, you're there because you really want to help and support your community. I did want to say as well that our very own Chris is going to be at Stanley Road on a Wednesday. I think it's 10 till 12, Robin, is it? It's going to be there.
Yeah, I think he's going to be setting up the men's group, actually, that I was talking about. He's really keen on doing that, which is great.
Brilliant.
If it wasn't for the volunteers, though, we wouldn't have managed the way we do. I mean, they offer over 150 hours a week to the centre.
Amazing.
And I asked the volunteers what makes us different to other statutory and third sector places, and it said the fact that we all care. We care about our job. We care about what we're doing.
Yeah, and do you know what? That's really evident. Anybody that steps foot in your place, I think you can't fail to see that. I certainly could within 5 minutes of being there. I really could. Like I say, anybody wants to go and see Chris, do you know, for a bit of one-on-one support, it's just a little drop-in that he's going to be doing. It's 10 till 12 on a Wednesday morning, and you can link in with Robin as well, and see what those guys are doing down there. Did anybody else have anything they wanted to ask Robin?
Well, I was just going to say, don't you do the feed the children and stuff as well on the morning, like, you know, the breakfast clubs and things like that?
We've got a food club every Tuesday, and it's £4. We will have some more spaces the week after next coming up for that, so I'll have about 10 free spaces for that.
I mean, I lost track of the stuff when we came in there with our.
I do as well.
It was just there was just so much. I just thought it was just.
Where possible, everything's free. The food club is £4 per week, but that's because we've got to pay for the food. But the meditation that we provide, the brewing chats, the craft mornings, the hula hooping, the parent club, the dancing where possible is free. Yeah, so just get in contact.
Amazing. We've got lots of people liking. A lot of people are very interested in the comments about these hula hoops.
Well, I
think we've definitely started something off here.
I knew the comments. I knew exactly, if I could have put bets on that it would be Stuart Watson and Jonathan Chapman, I would have said Stuart Watson, Jonathan Chapman, and I was completely right. So we need a few more comments then, please, before I make a complete idiot.
Before Lindsay's going to commit to the hula hooping live on Facebook.
I need more likes and more shares before I make a complete idiot of myself. We've got our lovely Dan Littlechild watching as well. Miss you, Dan Littlechild.
We do miss you.
Wade Rushton's watching. Barbara English, thank you for all my quizzes and jokers from last night's Friday fun. Obviously that involved me. Generally make a complete idiot of myself on a Friday night. I'm saying that like that's a one-off thing. Most Friday fun nights are absolutely mad. Usually involves me jumping around the living room with Colin. If you want to know who Colin is, you'll have to join in for our Friday fun night to find out. Our lovely Glenn's watching. Who else did we have? Wade Rushton, Stephen Leonard, Philip McManus, Samantha Neen, our Barbara English, obviously, and of course Chris Rowlands is still on board. What
Excellent.
a free bag of hula hoops. Not hula hoops, Chris. Weighted hula hoops. It's to make me thin.
Entirely different. Right, well, thanks so much, Robin, for coming and sharing with us. We really appreciate it. And feel free to hang around and see what everybody else has got to say and what else is on offer in the community. So
I'm just looking through one of the comments. And Stephen Leonard has said, hi all. Is it okay if I can say hi to any family members? And I just think that's probably something maybe Robin could help with, because and I know Stephen's part of a network of family members who tap into that mutual aid, you know, they support one another. And Stephen was saying to me, you know, is there any way we can direct more people to that network that Stephen is a big part of, called Family Matters? And I think, you know, there's probably lots of people coming through your doors, Robin, who, you know, could benefit from maybe not actually in crisis themselves, but have got a family member who is, and don't know how to deal with it and just need a space to tap into, to say, you know, this is what's going on for me. And I need a space to air.
We had somebody come in the week before last who said that, you know, I'm struggling with somebody in my family, and we put them in contact with Chris. So people can come directly, or they come through family friends or family members. Yeah, we're there to help in whatever way they need. And
Stephen, you are more than welcome to come on this live Love Lounge any week and speak to the community yourself. I think it'd be great if you did.
Amazing. Yeah, great. Thank you. Right, so next up, I almost think I want to do a drum roll for this one. So next up we have our very own Peter Yarwood, who is going to be talking to the very wonderful Chris Lee. I don't even think I need to introduce these guys more. I think they're going to have some great information for everybody. They're going to let everybody know what's going on in the background, you know, and just, I think it's good, you know, that the rest of the community and everybody that's involved with our services, you know, really understands, you know, where funds come from, you know, how things are worked out, just so that you guys can have an input, because don't forget, these services that we provide, they are with you guys in mind. You know, we do this to help you guys. We want to fill the need that you guys have. So I think it's really important for you guys to have your questions answered, you know, and to have your input and have your say. So without further ado, I shall turn you over to Peter and Chris.
Very much.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much. So for those of you that don't know Chris Lee, we go way back. Chris Lee has been journeying with the Lancashire User Forum since it first began. Isn't that right, Chris?
Oh, yes. Many, I don't even know how far back it is. Way over a decade, Pete.
And you had a specific interest in it because, you know, your role was to create a space, wasn't it, to enable people coming through services to flourish. And I think, you know, you're one of a few team members that are still left, because, you know, let's not paint a picture that isn't true, that there's been a lot of cuts, hasn't there, to the system, and a lot of changes. But you're still around, Chris, aren't you? And you've got, what is your role now, Chris?
I'm clinging on, Pete. You can't get rid of me. Yeah, so first up, Pete, yeah, there was a lot of us involved in the early days, and there's a lot of people who aren't around in the system anymore. People who were involved in the DAT, from everybody who remembers what a DAT was, a Drug and Alcohol Action Team, whose job was to commission services. And we had a leader back in the day who is coming back into the patch, so which is great news for all of us. So welcome Tom back onto the patch. In fact, he's just started a new job. But there was a gang of us who sort of worked with you, Pete, and a range of others, and Dave even before you came to the DAT. And yeah, so it's been a pleasure to work with you all, and it's fabulous to see how things have grown and grown over the years. And as we've sort of like stood in the background, you guys have taken the reins and let it run. So that's really inspiring in my role. My role now is in public health. So I've been sat in public health now for, I don't know how many years, it's 8 years, I think it's 8 years. My job title is public health specialist, which sounds very grand, it isn't really. But part of that is to be the sort of lead for Lancashire County Council on commissioning drug and alcohol services and other things like tobacco and health and various other things. But I can only do it with a trusted team around me. And there are people that you guys will come across like Lee and Marie and others in the team and Anne and others. You know, you need to know that they're the guys who do the legwork. I just sit and talk a lot, really. They do the legwork. They're the good guys. And in terms of the money, Pete, yeah, money has come out of the system, but we've fought really hard to hold on. So we think the system's down about 20% here. Some parts of the country, it's gone down 50% or more. We've had really good support from Lancashire County Council and from our Director of Public Health, who've really championed the need for drug and alcohol services and the investment. And when I say services, I mean the whole system. I don't just mean the treatment bit, I mean the recovery bit as well, all of it wrapped up, housing, treatment, recovery support, all of it. That's what I mean when I'm talking about the system. So the plan next, Pete, is to try and get our hands on, we've pulled loads of money in recently from grants, some of that short term. What we're hoping for now is that the magic money tree has been found and government are about to turn the tap on around reinvestment again, following the Black Review that came out this week. If anybody hasn't seen it, the Dame Carroll Black Review 2, independent review of drugs, get on Google, search it, or whatever other search engines are available, I presume. Download it, have a read. It's a big thing, but read the introduction and the recommendations and you'll get a feel for it. But it's a landmark report, and that's what's going to change the game, I think.
I remember, and I think this is an interesting point, so I'll share it. I come through treatment in Lancashire. You know, I'm one of those people that has made quite a few mistakes, and I've had to dust myself down and have another go on more than one occasion. And I remember coming through with quite an entrenched mindset, born from just this continual fight against the system, where I didn't feel like I ever had a space, I ever belonged, I could ever contribute. It just felt like I was oppressed and, you know, part of a social experiment to just keep me, you know, in poverty. And something in my spirit knew there was something more, but I suppose I could never find a way into breaking free from it. And I got a first job in that, and it was with your team, Chris. And up until that point, I didn't realise that there was so many good people who were behind the scenes, pulling strings, writing policies, you know, creating and designing a system for people like me who just seen, you know, life on the margins as that's all there was to offer. And once I realized, you know, how many good people was in the system and what was actually being designed, and we could have a part in that, I think that was like the beginning of what we used to call critical mass, you know, creating a space where huge numbers of people come into that space and say, you know, we're going to all head in one direction because we want some decent, you know, jobs and friends and houses. And I think what happened, Chris, was we co-produced something really, really good. Yeah. And it seems like we're on the cusp of some more change. What's coming through will hopefully, and that's our value tonight, isn't it? Hope. And interestingly, William White's got a blog, and in the blog he talks about people with a lived experience being able to transmit hope better than anybody. And I think, you know, the system is recognizing that people with a lived experience have got a crucial part to play in this journey going forward. And I think there's a reason why that's happening. It's because, you know, people like Chris and his team have opened doors of opportunity for us to walk through, even though, you know, we're not going to get it right. Many of us, speaking for myself, we're not going to get it right first time. But if we get a culture right where it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to get feedback, we don't have to be defensive over it, because actually we all want the same thing. We're all trying to achieve, you know, a bit of a better life.
People's lives are complex, community is complex, organizations are complex, and all of that complexity isn't a fixed thing that's just complex in a certain way. It's all dynamic, so it's all ever shifting, and we all know that for our own. I know that in my life. You know what I mean? Everybody else must know that. So when you try and start bolting all those bits together, you can't have fixed static entities of journey A to B, because sometimes you go that way, sometimes you'll go that way, sometimes you'll go that way. Do you know what I mean? Life's difficult in some respects, and so one of the things that I've really learned, Pete, by engaging, and that's why I'm here tonight, really, is that I can't sit in, I don't sit in County Hall anymore. I sit here in my loft, my little loft that I've not moved out of for the last 18 months. But we don't aim to design services and systems and stuff that are sat in some bureaucratic little hole, and oh yes, we know what to do. The only way that we can try and get it right is by being pretty much all ears and listening to people, which is what I really want to be here for tonight, Pete. And you'll remember back in about, I don't know, whenever it was, Pete, about 2008, me and you sitting down in an office in Preston North End and saying, you know what, Pete, in a year's time, I want 10 of you. Yeah. And then the year after that, I want 100 of you. And if you look from 2008 to whatever we are now, 2021, I don't know how many people are tuned in tonight, but how much capacity, how much resources that positive resourcing in the varying recovery communities across the Lancashire region now. It's massive. And that's down to every person who's on this call tonight has got a part to play in that. And the reason for asking if we could come along tonight is because we want to tap into what your views are, what your opinions are, and what your ask and thoughts are of us. We've got the public resource, and we want to spend that public resource in the best way possible to get the best outcomes for people's lives, acknowledging all the complexity and all the difficult things that go on in the mix. So that's what we're here for. And I want to reference a few other bits of business, but the bit that people might feel uncomfortable with is the first bit of business that we've got to do. We talk about commissioning, and I don't want to bore everybody to death. It's Saturday night. Nobody's come on it. You've just been talking about hula hooping, so I'm not going to sit here and talk commissioning theory and policy. Nobody's interested, really, and I get that. I have to be, because it's my job, and I'm a bit of a geek about that sort of thing. The bit about it, there's a description, Pete. Has that gone out to everybody? We did a little Q&A to try and preempt some people's thoughts.
It's gone out to the team leader, Bev. So yeah, Bev assured me she cascaded it out. Yeah.
Fab. So what that'll do is that'll answer some of the questions around what is commissioning and what's the process. Basically, commissioning is this whole cycle approach to monitoring what we've got, reviewing that things are working properly. A little tiny bit of that cycle is about buying services or interventions or whatever. And people think commissioning is just the purchasing bit, and it's not. Commissioning is the whole review cycle going round and round constantly. What we're here to talk about today is that the RIO contract, the Recovery Infrastructure Organisation, which most people will never have even heard of, but you're all engaging with it here and now, effectively. The Recovery Infrastructure Organisation is the contractual name, part and parcel of Red Rose Recovery Business. It's the core element, really, that we put money in from Lancashire County Council into Red Rose, and that's the bit that we buy. We buy some outcomes from Red Rose. So what we say is, we want you to deliver X, Y, and Z, and we'll give you this much money to do it, and then you'll report back and tell us how you're getting on with it. That's in a nutshell, really. And then as we go through the year, we meet and we review and we tweak. We're always tweaking, Pete, aren't we? Forever tweaking direction and approach to try and get the best outcomes for people. And that bit of business isn't the whole of Red Rose Recovery. It's a part of Red Rose Recovery. It's a sizable portion, but that's the bit that's coming to the end of its contract. And for love nor money, I can't get us out of having to go down the line of what we call recommissioning. So that means that we have to advertise that service, make it available for organisations to bid for, and then we have to score those bids, and then we have to award it based on set criteria to the winning provider, who will then go on and provide the recovery infrastructure organisation for us. And we did it last time in 2015, and Red Rose Recovery were the winners of the business. And that's how the world's rumbled on since. But in less than a year's time, that contract has ended. And so we have to go back around that cycle of purchasing it. So we will put another contract out for another 7 years or longer if I get my way, but I think it'll have to be 7 years. And then that'll rumble again. And what I desperately want to hear is, and you might turn around and say, well, you can ask all you like, but what will you listen to us? The answer is, I'm not going to answer that. I'm posing my own question, Pete. Will I listen to people's views? Pete, you and the gang need to answer that. I'm going to say categorically, yes, that's why we're here. We want to know what everybody thinks. And we will, absolutely, hand on heart, we will act on what people say. Might not act on all of what people say, might not act on everything that people say, because some people might come up with some quite wild ideas that we can't afford to do. But generally speaking, we take on board what people want, and we will make it fit, and we will include it in the design of what we're purchasing. So that, I suppose, that's my pitch. We're going to put a questionnaire out, but I don't think our business intel people have got it ready yet. But we will share it with you as soon as it's ready, because we want people to fill it in. It's going to be really difficult coming out and doing the face-to-face stuff that we would have done once upon a time. You know, getting a gang of people together in a big room and having a big debate and loads of flip chart paper everywhere, loads of post-it notes everywhere. That's the bit that I love. We sort of can't do it because of COVID at the minute. You know, it's quite difficult. We've all got to look after ourselves and be safe. But that we've got to find a way to do it. So we are going to do some sessions. They might have to be online like this. We might be able to do some in the real world if we're lucky. But there will be a questionnaire for people to feed into as well. And we need you guys to get it out. And everybody who's listening, please fill it in, comment on it. And if you want to just express an opinion, there's an email I can post in somewhere, the behaviour change email address, Pete, you'll have it. If we can post that out to everybody, so if anybody wants to comment, go to that email address and we'll pick it up. That, in a nutshell, is what I wanted to come and say. We have to do the recommission exercise because it's a legal requirement on the county council. We want to do it in the best way. We want everybody's opinion, and we will, hand on heart, genuinely listen to what people say. If people say you've got to give everybody £1 million, that's the ideal approach, I'm probably going to ignore that suggestion because clearly we couldn't do it. But if people turn around and say all the workforce need to be trauma informed or trained in trauma practice, well, we'll listen to that and we'll say, oh, that's something meaningful that we can write in. You get the gist. You know, we can't do some extremes, but sensible things, obviously, we want to do. And we want to make sure that what we buy fills the needs of the community. Otherwise, why buy it? Everybody's seen the Blobs and the Squares film, I'm presuming. If you haven't, just go and Google Blobs and Squares. And the idea that, you know, you design that, but people want that over there. So, well, we might as well just go straight to designing what people want. Does that make sense?
Well, it certainly does to me, but it has fired off so many synapses in my brain, like it always does. I just want to say, though, yeah, we are ever changing, and that's a good thing, you know, because we're always growing. But I'm not sure life is improving. You know, statistically speaking, we've had a lot of people who have died, you know, from drug-related deaths, Chris, you know, and it's like there does need to be change. But just pulling it back to the Lancashire User Forum, you know, when we first started in lockdown, you know, we went live pretty much that week. And we've aired 65 shows, and every one of those shows has been on a weekend, you know, and it's like our staff effectively and our volunteers, not just staff, they've given a lot of free time. And, you know, there's there's data what David Best delivers, and he talks about recovery cities, Chris.
Yep.
And what he says is, you know, you want people in recovery in your community because statistically speaking, when they've got to that 5-year mark, they are twice as likely to give back to society than just ordinary people. And I don't like the term ordinary.
He calls it better than well, Pete, doesn't he?
Better than well.
I think it's what a wonderful phrase, better than well. It's not just about people getting better. It's a great phrase, getting better, whatever it means. But better than well, contributing back into the society, meaningful engagement in life, participating as citizens. That's the heart of it all, isn't it? We're social beings, and so participation is important to us. Isolation is really, really bad for us. Isolation is a massive physical health and mental health impact on us. We all know that. And let's face it, the last 18 months has been a really testing time for all of us, me included, sat up here in my loft that I can never get out of. You know, and it's been a really, really challenging period. But take COVID away to one side, lots of our communities are isolated anyway. The beauty of the recovery community is one of its massive benefits is reaching out and engaging and pulling people in, and the interconnectedness. For me, that I always talk about it, Pete, and you know I've argued the toss over this with some fairly senior people in the system. When I keep talking about the magic and they say, oh, there is no such thing as magic.
Yeah.
I will say, but there is. Come and see it. Come and feel the vibe of it all. Feel the vibe of it on here. You walk into but it is. It's hope, and it trusts people. You've got to trust people. You know what I mean? In order to get that sort of spark of hope from them, haven't you? So I hope that people trust what I'm saying tonight, that it's real and it's valid. And I can only sit back and get others to vouch that that's what we've done before. We've always listened. We've always supported. Sometimes we're in the wings. Sometimes you don't see us. You might not see us for a long period of time, but as Pete said before, we are here and we are listening and we are watching massively. I
don't want to be controversial, but I'm gonna my hope for the future, and I have a hope that people who are medically assisted, who aren't using illicitly, who have a better quality of life, aren't made to feel less than, aren't stigmatized. They have got access to jobs, they've got access to employment and, meaningful opportunities. That's my hope. And I think, I was really encouraged when our national recovery champion, Ed Day, told us that he'd successfully moved the recovery champion role from the Home Office to health. And I thought now we might start understanding that addiction, is one, a chronic relapsing condition. We've had these conversations, haven't we, Chris?
Yeah.
But it's a health condition, and people for too long have been criminalized and punished and penalized. And I know first-hand experience, because, we've created a space, we in Lancashire I'm talking about, that has applied these principles. So it does work. My hope for the future is that recovery is defined not as one-dimensional, not just as abstinence, but as an improved lifestyle, and whatever way people choose to achieve that, it should have, a few outcomes like decent accommodation, decent jobs, decent access to employment, and some of the, like,
you'll know, Pete, that I don't even know how many years ago it was now, but I asked you to invite someone up to the Luff a number of years ago, and it was in Preston. And the whole point was somebody came up and talked about their approach as a single mum and doing work with lots of big organisations. I'm being spied on here by child. And at the end of it all, that person said, but you know what, I still have a script. And the room split into two. Some people liked it and some people didn't like it. But the whole point of bringing that person along then was to show that recovery is more than just abstinence. Recovery is around lifestyle, connectivity, meaningful engagement and purpose. And they're the critical bits. Abstinence, great. Like, nobody wants to be hooked into something that is quite controlling. But it isn't the self-defining thing, because you can make somebody abstinent from a substance, but if there's no hope, no meaning, no purpose, no connectivity, that isn't recovery, is it? So recovery is like you say, Pete, it's a multifaceted thing. It's a really complex entity, and we need to work on all those things. We need to work on people's social capital, their economic capital, their cultural capital, and their health capital. There's all those odd terms capital, isn't it? It sounds businessy, and I don't mean it like that. But there's those areas of life that we need to build on. You need good cultural engagement. You need enough money to live on. You know what I mean? You need a decent place to live. You need to look after your health and engage in health services if you need to, and all the rest of it. You need to self-care. You need to do all those things. And the connectivity bit, which is what I keep coming back to, because that's where the magic happens, I think, is worth a lot in all of those. It opens doors, it makes you healthier physically, it makes you healthier mentally, etc. So, and you're right, Pete, putting it in the Department of Health and Social Care would be a better place than the Home Office for me.
And one of the things we're really fortunate about is that the systems that they're influenced by policies, and then policies are designed by people, and we've got some really good people who want to listen to our voices so we can influence that. And I've got a hope that some of those quite high level discussions that our guys, Sarah, Lindsay, Willie, all the guys who are in this space making it happen, I've got a clear pathway into that. And speaking of that, our stories are really powerful. So next week we're starting our face-to-face training again in a community centre, and we're delivering the speaker boot camps. We're going around the model again, Chris. We're delivering speaker boot camp training, and once you partake in that speaker boot camp training, you get a certificate, and that certificate, I'd say in the next 6 months will be accredited. We're going to get it accredited.
Yep,
excellent. Once you hit a criteria, so you've got your speaker boot camp certificate, you've learned some techniques, and you've got your own personal story. Willie's received one of these bronze speaker boot camp badges because he's delivered his story in professional settings. So one of the things I wanted to say is, speak to your team leaders, get on the recovery coach the speaker boot camp training, because in a couple of weeks we're going to be taking people into the prisons to talk to the prisoners, to share your experience and your strength and your hope. I know it's a cliche, but it's a really true and powerful one.
Not a cliche, Pete. If it was a cliche, it wouldn't be as effective as what it is, would it? It's true and it's powerful. I've witnessed it, Pete. I've been there. I've seen it. I've seen you and the guys do it. It is, and it can make you tingle when people start talking about their stories. I've known colleagues of mine who probably would never have, you probably never know that they've been in the audience sometimes. And they've come back to me with tears in their eyes, and they've just said, I was weeping all the way through. It's impactful. And that emotive bit of it is where you cut through. People like me who sort of sit in bureaucratic sort of roles and all the rest of it, we find it really hard to cut through like that. You know what I mean? So recovery communities, lived experience is absolutely essential. And it's part and parcel of the jigsaw that makes all this stuff magically work in the background.
Sorry, Pete, I was just going to say I would absolutely agree with that. The therapeutic value of one addict helping another, I think, is absolutely unparalleled. I obviously work for Red Rose now. I came to Red Rose personally, because I am a recovering alcoholic and a recovering addict. I think a lot of us have the ethos, that the opposite of addiction is connection.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's the one thing that drives us underground. We don't feel part of, we feel less than. It's such a lonely place to be. And the more you stigmatize, the more you're judged. And sometimes, you know, even though you might feel that way, even if you're not being stigmatized and judged, you know, by the people around you, it's that internal feeling, you know, that nobody's going to understand and nobody's going to get where I'm coming from. And it's such a lonely place to be. And that only drives you further and further underground. That's why I think it's so important for us to have spaces like this where people can talk openly and honestly about where they've been, you know, where they are now and how they got there. I know when I walked into, you know, rooms like this, spaces like this, it was that first feeling of thinking, do you know what, I'm not alone. I thought I was the only one that thought like me. I thought I was the only one that felt the way I did, you know, that had the behaviors that I did. I felt that I wasn't a bad person, but I knew the way I was behaving, you know, and I didn't know why. I didn't understand it, and I didn't dare share it with anybody. And by listening to other people's stories, it was like they were sharing from my mind, you know, and all of a sudden I didn't feel alone anymore. You know, I was in a room full of people that didn't judge me, you know, that didn't want anything from me. I think that was really important. You know, these people didn't want anything from me, but to give me some hope, but to, you know, let me know where they'd been, how they, you know, and how they'd got to where they were now. And I just think yeah, for me, it's just really, really important. Really important.
I couldn't agree more. And you say it far better than I ever could. And I thank you for that. Lancashire's, our broader region, Lancashire, Cumbria, is really, really well served. We've got Red Rose Recovery, we've got the Luff Lounge, because Luff Lounge is different than Luff to some degree because of the digital nature of it all, but one and the same. And then we've also got like the well communities as well, you know, equally ploughing that space and doing really positive, good work as well. So I genuinely, in the role that I've got, I think we can hold the substance misuse sector up. And I know it's broader than substance, but that sector, I can hold that card up internally and say, look, we are genuinely doing all the real stuff. We're doing the peer stuff, the lived experience stuff, the ABCD stuff, the pre-citizen inquiry sort of stuff in our communities. We are community placed. We are working in our local communities. We are offering evidence-based treatment and all the rest of it. I think we've got a really good system. I'm not saying for 1 minute it's perfect, because I bet there's more than 10 people on the call who will take issue with what I've just said and say, well, my experience was rubbish, Chris, and what are you going to do about it? And I hold my hands up and apologise if that's been the case for you. But I think genuinely, if we look around the country, there aren't that many places that have got the richness of recovery support and space and those differing recovery communities coming together, because there is no homogenous recovery community. People that might think that there are when they're detached from it. But that's one thing I learned really, really early days, is that, wow, this is so diverse. It's yet another layer to get down into and to understand. And I still probably don't understand it as well as I should. But we're blessed, really, in this area. There's lots of space. What I want to do is make sure that we keep fighting for more of that space, and that, you know, we protect that space. So that's why we're recommissioning the Rio bit. We're not just going to let the contract end and say, oh, well, Red Rose is an established organisation now, it doesn't need the money, blah, blah, blah. No, we're going to go out and we have to retender the recovery infrastructure organisation bit, because we want to continue spending that money on this purpose, creating spaces, creating more diverse spaces for people. With the BRIT funding that goes with it, we're planning to keep that in place as well, which can be further seeds of hope in terms of developing new projects and things. We want all that to stay, and we want all that to grow if we can, and we want to continue to develop meaning out of it. So when we get those questionnaires out, or when we offer those groups in whatever format they're going to be, and we'll advertise them through you guys, because you are the channel. Once we put that out, unless people come forward and take part and fill in the boring questionnaire, or come and give up an hour of your time, and I appreciate it's you giving up your time, to come and tell us what you think, then we can only do it based on what we think we know, and that can be detached from what the truth is. So we need to take it right from the front line, and we need to listen to that, and we need to build that in, because otherwise I will add my own bias if I start in, praising. Do you see what I mean? So it's really
absolutely
important.
Yeah, I love that point there. That I think you know that we're all still learning. You know, none of us know everything, you know, and there's always more learning to be done, you know, however far we are in recovery, however, you know, experienced we are in whatever roles we have, we can all, you know, there's something to be learned from everybody. And especially everybody in recovery has their own experiences, has their own points of view, and will have their own pain points as well, and their own things, you know, that they need the help with. And I think that's great to hear, you know, that we recognize there is always learning to be done. And that's why, you know, what you're saying is that we, you know, we really want to listen. With that in mind, I think Lindsay might have a great list of comments and stuff here.
Completely lost track, but I shall do my best. But I'm just going to stick my Pennethworth in and combine it with a very briefness, because if I start doing my bit of story, it will go on for hours. But happy 50th to Peter Yarwood. It does tie in, so bear with me. Happy 50th. Welcome to the Over 50s Club. I had my 50th birthday. So life begins at 40 wasn't for me. Life begins at 50 was me, because I had my 50th in rehab. So it actually did. When I say life begins at 50, I actually mean it. So the back end of 2018, when I was rushed into hospital with my addiction, I was attempting a reduction, to be fair, and the 23rd of October 2018 is quite significant, because I was rushed into hospital and took there by my alcohol worker and my sister, and told that I resembled, I'll just say I did resemble a very large rotten pumpkin, is the only way I can think. I was covered in scabs, I was in extreme pain, I was orange, and I didn't think I was going to die. I was weeing what looked like tar, excuse my bluntness if anyone's eating. My wee was black, and I was diagnosed with severe jaundice, alcoholic hepatitis and liver cirrhosis. My children were in Portugal, and I didn't think I was going to see them again. So this is, I'd like to say I'm rather much healthier than that now, with the help of, obviously, as I mentioned at the beginning, Littledale Hall and Red Rose Recovery. But it is, as I say to my lovely ladies in, and gentlemen, sorry, we're just getting such a fabulous influx of strong, independent women, or building strong, independent women. It's a team sport, is recovery. I don't know anyone who could do recovery by themselves. I certainly can't. And I was one of my delightful ladies who has got lost hope, or has thought she'd lost hope, just this last few days, selling herself a body for crack, living in a toilet, and she obviously has lost hope and doesn't believe in herself. I believe in her, and she will be very shortly starting her own group, not one that's already running. She's starting her own craft group, and that's what Red Rose did for me. They believed in me when I didn't believe in me. I do now, but I certainly didn't. And so someone had said to me at the back end of 2018, when I was sat in my own wee, I didn't open a letter, I didn't look out of my curtains, I didn't see people, I couldn't get upstairs because I didn't eat, so I was so weak. So if someone said to me, fast forward a couple of years and you'll be sat in front of potentially thousands of people, talking about hope and recovery, I'd have thought you were mental. So that's and we've got a gentleman, we've got our lovely Joe Gallagher on, our voice of an angel. Sorry, I know I went a little bit off track there, but I just thought it was quite relevant. Joe Gallagher is watching, James Rasmussen, Gary Sharp, I must shout him out because he's 7 months sober. Whoop, whoop to Gary Sharp. And he's also sent another message, which if I can find it, I must read out.
Well, while you're finding that, we've got quite, I can see a few comments here. So Barbara English, so true, Chris, a wraparound effect is needed and not a sticking plaster. I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of people on here wanting to do the speaker boot camp.
Including me. I got as far as the train station when I had to speaker boot camp, and there was some kind of evacuation at Preston. So I didn't actually get there, but I will do it, even though I've sort of spoke on this several dozen times. I still want to do it. Can you find Gary Sharp's other one? He did do another one. Colin Donahue, Lee Rothwell, Robin Thomas has sent me, lovely Robin. If she's still there on screen, she's private messaged me about some courses. If she's still there, Michael Dransfield from the Isle of Man. Hello, Michael Dransfield. Our lovely Barbara English is still watching, as is Stuart Watson. Oh, I can't find his blinking comment now. I've scrolled past too much. I really felt I needed to shout out Gary Sharps because it was rather lovely.
We've got another comment here saying there's no greater power than seeing rooms like this because seeing is believing. I think that's really important, guys. You know, like you say, I know for me, when I was sat in that really dark place, you just think it's so unachievable. You know, you really believed, you know, that it just can't happen for you. And it's by listening to other people talk and other people's stories and realizing, well, do you know what? That's me. And if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah. Really
important.
It is really inspiring, genuinely.
Well, my early days, I mean, I did, to be fair, when I came out of Littledale, I sort of stumbled. I can't actually remember how I sort of came. They sent us out and said, you need to find recovery volunteer work. And strangely enough, I actually haven't still a volunteer, even though I've done it since 2019, about August time, I think. Not that I haven't been offered jobs, because I have, but that is definitely what I'm going to be doing when I'm ready. I tell you what, I just thought, we were talking about people that have been there and think there's no hope. When there was one of these liaison and diversion jobs came up, Glen Island rang me and said, are you going to apply for the job? And I said, well, no. And I said, oh, but by the way, I haven't got a criminal record. And he said, oh, that's a shame. Is it? Is it a shame?
One of the only times you can go to a job interview and actually they want you to have been a bad in the past.
Yeah.
Just shows there's something out there for everybody.
Yeah.
The world was complex.
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
Before we move on, can I just, I suppose, throw in a little bit of a caution, because I think it's great that, you know, lived experience is being integrated into the system, and that's, you know, in terms of inclusion and diversion, we're being included in it, and I think that's awesome. But I'm not sure the diversity is quite there yet. I'm not sure the wider system understands how to support people with a lived experience, what the particular set of you know, how can I frame it? Our guys coming through in Red Rose Recovery flourish, and I suppose the Well will have a similar view. They flourish because we understand how best to support those people, and many of our staff are coming with adverse childhood experiences. They're coming with years of trauma, and we've got access to internal and external clinical and group supervision spaces, and I just sometimes worry a little bit that organisations jump on the bandwagon and think, yeah, we're going to have some lived experience staff working on our team, and it's going to be really, it's not going to be beneficial unless they properly understand that this is a diverse part of the workforce, and supporting them is a bit different.
What I can say, Pete, is that we advocate for exactly what you've just said. So we advocate that people should use and employ and work with lived experience in a whole range of settings, not just the drug and alcohol world, obviously, but we also push the points that you've just said, that you've got to be very understanding, and you've got to treat people with respect, and there are some different sort of angles on it than it might be through routine employment, when you've got to understand the journeys that people have been on. Not to say that people can't overcome those and establish just in those normal roles, because plenty of people do. But in those earlier days, there is a different approach that's needed, one with a lot of understanding attached to it. I've seen it, witnessed it, and I know exactly what you're saying, Pete. We'll be advocating for that. we're also at the minute, just on the back of the Dame Carol Black review, I'm trying to push that we should re-establish effectively a strategic board for the drug and alcohol agenda in the patch. And if we do that, then I want to make sure that lived experience has a seat around that table alongside all the other partners. So we'll be able to utilise that as a way of getting messages like that across to the rest of the system. I think it's also worth knowing that our colleagues in the Mental Health Trust at the minute are looking to massively ramp up the use of lived experience. And I know that's a different, well, it's a crossover, but sometimes that's a different space to us as well. It's not just one and the same, it's that diversity thing. It is taking hold in the system now. So this has been in existence for a decade and more, hasn't it, as we talked about at the beginning, Pete? But it is starting to seep out now and people are really grasping the concept of it. So we will continue in the background, in the shadows, where you might not see us. We will continue to advocate and support those views. And I know you want to move on. Can I just be really, really naughty? Can I just have 1 minute just to say something else? It's slightly different time. I'd just like to, I can't come from public health and come on here and we can't not talk about the last 18 months and COVID and all the rest of that. I don't want to bring everybody down because this is really, really passionate sort of stuff, but it would be absolutely remiss of me not to say to people, just continue to be vigilant, continue to be careful when you're out there. Case rates are really high with the Delta variant and everything. If you haven't got the vaccine, I would really encourage you to go and get the vaccine. It's so widely available now. I'd really, really encourage everybody listening to go and get the vaccine. Try and protect you, protect your family, your loved ones, your friends, all the rest. Continue to get tested if you need to, and continue with some of the practical measures to keep yourself safe. Distancing, face masks, washing your hands regularly, all the basics. That's what keeps people safe. And what we don't want, as the rates rise and the unlocking happens and the laws change, we just really want people to be safe. That's all. So I'm not going to go on about it anymore, but I can't come on and not put the plea out to everybody to keep looking after yourselves. It hasn't gone away.
No problem. Thank you, Chris.
Nice one, mate.
Thank you, Chris. Right, Lindsay, what do we have next? I've got an idea of who it is.
Well, it just wouldn't be Luff without him, would it, to be honest? He's looking as cool as a cucumber. The one, the only, the face of Luff, Willie McBlain. Willie, have you got some wonderful words of wisdom for us?
Yeah, I've got some really wonderful wisdom for you. Are you ready for it?
Ready.
Right. Hope is being able to see there is light despite all the darkness. Let your hopes, not your hurts, shape your future. I think it's a mistake to ever look for hope outside of oneself. Hope fills the holes of my frustration in my heart. He who has health has hope, and he who has hope has everything. A good teacher can inspire hope, ignite it. And install a love of learning. All the great things are simple, and many can be expressed in a single word: freedom, justice, honor, duty, mercy, hope. Hope lies in dreams, in imagination, and in the courage of those who dare to make dreams into reality. That's it, Lydia.
I think we need to
Thank you, Willie.
Thank you, Willie. I can't wait to meet Willie and hear these words of wisdom without his rubbishy, crackly internet. Has anybody out there, by the way, not read Willie's book?
I still haven't read it. I still haven't got a copy of Willie's book.
Sarah. I mean, you can lend mine, but then I've got a copy. I was just going to go and run and get mine. I might actually read it again, but yeah.
That's going to be my mission for this week. My mission for this week is to get hold of Willie's book.
It's so good. Willie very kindly sent me a copy because is.
Because you're the favourite. Yeah.
Well, I wasn't going to say that, but yeah, probably.
Yeah. Thanks for that. As usual, we've got 1,000 comments for Willie. Everybody loves Willie.
I know.
Absolute face of love.
Not a thing for me, apart from I thought someone was saying I don't look 50, but then I realised it was Peter. So thanks.
Amazing.
Compliments.
Right. So we'll move on to our next guest. This next guest has got a very special place in my heart. She's a very close and personal friend of mine, a very close and personal recovery sister of mine. This woman has been through my recovery with me every step of the way. She's always there on the end of a phone whenever I've got a problem. This is what we were talking about before, guys, with having a bit of connection and what a difference that makes. You know, getting that connection with other alcoholics, with other addicts, people that understand you and that don't want anything from you, that all they want, you know, is for you to get well. And this lady is certainly that for me. So without further ado, I shall pass you over to the very beautiful Louise Wheeler.
Thank you, Sarah. God, you know what? I'm absolutely blown away. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I'm just blown away. Thank you. I'm blown away that I've been invited to come and share on this platform. Do you know what? Before I came on, I did my meditation. I did everything. I spoke on the phone. Me inside, I was like, ooh, you know, all them feelings and all that. I thought, I can't do it. I can't come on. But you know what? I've gone on, and the hope I feel has blown me away. And you know what? It's like you've all said, it's that connection, you know? It's that connection that I needed to get me where I am today, because I've never, ever felt connected in my life, even with my family. I'll share a little bit about my past experience to qualify sort of thing, you know what I mean? So I am an alcoholic addict, and I've been clean and sober since I'm denying myself a few days here, 12th of June last year. And it blows me away. Absolutely blows me away. Like Sarah said, you know, me and Sarah met on this, you know, this morning platform. And my God, you know, it wasn't easy. But do you know what? That connection that you build, and me and Sarah are quite opposite in a lot of ways, but you know, in life experience, but the connection we have it's that therapeutic value, like Sarah was talking. It's massive, absolutely massive. Sarah understands me, I understand her, those feelings, those thoughts, you know, that. And again, she said, if I need you know, so it's, you know, plenty of other people, but I've spent a lot of my life, you know, I was adopted as a child, born in Blackpool, and that gave me instantly, you know, growing up. I'll fast forward a bit, but I might go back a bit. I can be all over the place, but bear with me. So that first thing of I was adopted, that gave me a label of who am I, you know, I'm adopted, I'm different, it made me feel, I remember being on the train going to Blackpool with my mum, and she said to me, Louise, you're adopted. And I was like, yeah, I've got 2 mums. And it just, you know, it just made me feel, the more I thought about it, the more I thought, my God, you know, this makes me feel not the same as anybody else. I went to school, people found out I got bullied slightly, that turned me into a bully. You know, I bullied other people, you know, gave me that bit of confidence, and I started drinking, started smoking the weed, I started, you know, my drug taking, alcoholism began. And it was just like, the first time I remember, you know, having a smoke of a joint, I was like, oh my, I was with my first boyfriend, about 14, I was like, oh my God, I felt it. I felt at one, I just felt, you know, my head shut down, my head quieted down, you know, all those feelings inside started to sort of, which I didn't understand. I thought it was just like, you know, anxiety and stuff, which, you know, it's the fear and it's the, you know, but I just felt like, you know, oh my God, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I'm just going to take drugs. Love it. So I went from one drug to another drug to another drug. Eventually, you know, I started on heroin, crack, you know, went through many relationships, marriage, had children, my first 2 children, stayed with her a little while. I tried to be that mother, you know. I tried, but I just couldn't do it. I couldn't. Drugs became my life. Drugs became the most important thing. The love of my children wasn't enough to stop me using drugs, you know. I had a massive thing for amphetamine. I loved being thin. I loved you know, it kept me awake so I could party, put my kids to bed, and my house would be that session house, that party house. You know, people liked me, I had friends, and, you know, I was connected with people, but the only way I could connect with people was to put something inside my body that would give me that false confidence, and that, you know, I didn't have to put that mask on where I felt so, really, I felt isolated, I felt alone, I just felt different and not part of the world. And it was the most loneliest, you know, those feelings and those, it's horrendous, you know. Eventually I lost my children. They got brought up by, and I don't mind sharing it on it, you know, because, you know, this is real. This is what a lot of, you know, mothers, you know, go through, you know. Yes, my children were eventually, my son and my daughter were eventually brought up by their fathers, mother and father, and, you know, that just gave me a green light to use more and more. It was great, you know, and then I really started to get to that dark, you know, deep level of didn't give a shit, didn't care, self-care went right out the window, you know, this makeup put on, this false bravado, this, you know, this face mask of, oh, you know, I'm absolutely fine. But bullshit, you know, and I started, that was when we were criminal, and what life started. I started getting locked up, you know, shoplifting started, didn't have the money, so I started shoplifting. I've got more, did it more and more and more. The more I got away with it, the more I did it. You know, I'd fill myself full of Valium, anything I could, just to get out of that, you know, world. And I started to become this person that became, you know, a part of a world that wasn't real. What I saw in my world was, you know, just parties. You know, I'd lost my children. That gave me every reason. That was a victim, an absolute victim. And I used that to just, you know, if you were like me, if you had a life like me, if you were adopted, if you weren't brought up with a this, that, if you got divorced, and, you know, if you had a criminal life, then you know, you'd use like I did. And then if prison started, it just got worse and worse and worse, you know, as we hear a lot of the times in these rooms, you know. And I'll never forget my first jail sentence. You know, I won't pick myself up and say, God, you know, I was absolutely terrified. I knew how much I'd hurt my family, you know, my children were living without me. You know, and I remember being the officer locking me behind a cell. I was absolutely shitting myself. But in another way, it was weird because I thought, oh my God, you know, he's locked the door, it's all right. Nobody, you know, I don't have to face anybody, and I could just be me. You know, and I cried, and then, you know, the door would get opened, and I'd start putting his face on, and drugs, and, you know, and then obviously it got worse and worse. The prison sentences got more and more and more. Came out, and then came out in the middle of me, came out in this one sentence, sorry. And I thought, I know what I'll do, I'll get married. So I did. Got divorced very quickly. That didn't work, you know, it was in drugs, we were selling drugs, partying, you know. But through this, I'd get, you know, I'd get a job at a house. I'd really try to, you know what, I can do this. I get, you know, I can really try. I started doing course, start doing this, and I eventually got my daughter back. My daughter back to live with me. You know what? Wow, it was just absolutely the best thing. I couldn't believe it. But it didn't last. It didn't last. And, you know, I wasn't extra support. I wasn't getting what I know, you know, I can get today. You know, very quickly drugs to prison sentences start again. This time you look at me, I'm not supposed to absolute nightmare. Then children who got but today, you know, I've got hope, I've got, you know, just I'm getting a little bit lost. You know what? There's something happened in my life, but I see today that I am not. I don't. I believe that I don't have to. I have to become my absolute biggest asset. And for anybody who's walked, honestly, your criminal past, if I've children adopted, you know, if you feel like shit's mother using drugs and can't think up, do you know what, there is support out there, and I'm not alone, absolutely not alone. You know, I felt like I couldn't talk to any friends what was going on, you know, they just had as well. But, you know, I used to come home and thought, you know, as alone, like children, I didn't have a job. I was like, what, you know, what is my goal? Then eventually, I reached out over in my house in Barrow, and I reached out and I actually got a place in there, and it was, you know, I never felt anything like it. You know, other people have been through a lot of things that I've been through, that connection, you know, hope. And I started getting amazing. I mean, you know, the recovery house is absolutely amazing. And I started doing this program. Not for everybody, but it works for me, you know. And you know, self-care, that you have well-being, you have name on a lot of walks, connections with ladies, you know, but I needed that, you know, I needed that morally, see how my life, you know, I was a problem wherever in my life, you know, moved because I moved in there and everywhere, you know, I always with me, I think, what's going on here? So you doctor, you can't just, you know, I know you're medical, what is wrong? I had this head that was not sure of obviously, you know, I started doing this program and it changed me. But my downfall's been, you know, men. So I'm just left the place, started it all going on, you know, but that's you know, relationship fell apart in lockdown, and I was left in a house. We got together, you know, and you know, I was lying to my daughter. She didn't have a clue half the things that were going on. She didn't know about, you know, a lot of my use and stuff. Thank God she does have that on this platform. But yeah, so I just felt so desperate. I couldn't stop drinking. I started to really drink a lot, and I don't know what's gone. What is happening? And thank God I knew a lady to reach out to, get a phone call. And today, oh my God, my life done an absolute 360 and it's not you know, storm or something house. You know, sometimes it can be quite difficult, but you know, I've just got to get on with it. You know, I've got a routine, that I stick to every day, you know. I've got connection with Sarah and so many other people. You know, jobs like I said, that I've left at the start, but I've got a little job in the shop. You know, I've got a job interview, so I'm happy to do. You know, so many things in my life today. My daughter, and we're so proud of me that, you know, I'm so proud of her that, you know, I'm there today. She phones me down there. I turn up for my grandchildren, you know, so it's a massive part of my life now. Absolutely, I'm so grateful to you know, that therapeutic value, that connection. It's just given me, you know, even like on the record, and I never thought go to prison, having a criminal record that I'll never ever be able to do that I want to do, you know. But it doesn't have to hold you back, you know. It's absolutely amazing, but I'm trying up a little bit now, so I'm going to shut now, Sarah. But I hope that for everybody. I'll leave it there, but thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Louise. I hope everybody got to hear some of that. You did break up a little bit, Louise, in the middle of that, but I don't know if that was just my internet or everybody else's, but I hope everybody got to hear that. That was an absolute fabulous story of recovery. If that doesn't give you hope, guys, then I don't know what will. You know, and this is what this space is all about. It's about, you know, listening to the experiences of others, you know, being at the people that we can identify with, people that we can say, well, do you know what? It's not only, you know, it's not just me, you know, knowing that there are other people out there that have been through similar things to you. It doesn't have to be exactly the same story. You know, me and Louise don't have exactly the same story, but we've got that connection. You know, she can understand where I've been. She could understand the feelings behind, you know, that drove my drinking and my drug use. She can understand those feelings of rock bottom, you know, that drive to get recovery, you know. And now the beautiful thing is we get to enjoy life recovered together. You know, I'll just say now that, you know, in August, I'm going on my first ever holiday where I will be sober, clean from all drugs. And Louise is going to be one of the girls that's coming with me. And this is the sort of thing that we can do in recovery. I never thought that sort of thing was possible. You know, I never thought I was going to have a life being sober or taking drugs. Not that I was having any fun anyway. You know, the fun times had long since passed, but now I know the real meaning of friendship and, you know, and happiness and, you know, peace of mind. And it's by, you know, creating these relationships and these friendships, you know, that I've got with ladies like the lovely Louise, you know, that understand me, that we can keep each other safe, you know, and go out and do all those amazing things that life's got to offer.
Yeah,
thank you
I was going
so
to
much,
say,
Louise.
I just associated fun, alcohol. I didn't get that you could actually have good times without alcohol. To me, that if it was a night out and it was a fun time, there would definitely be alcohol. I didn't know that was even a thing until I sang karaoke for the first time, obviously sober, in Littledale Hall. Because I thought, well, there's no way I'm doing that without a drink. And obviously there's no mini bars, weirdly enough. But, you know, a few weeks in, Cool for Cats Squeeze, I was on it, you know. And weirdly enough, I can remember it. And I was thinking back to all the concerts and stand-up comedians I've been and seen and over the years and think, pretty much can't remember any of them. You know, there's quite a... I've been to see them.
Yeah.
Don't really remember a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? The comments have been absolutely flying into
I
you,
know,
Louise.
I've got
That was
to...
great, thank you. Good for you. Similar connection.
Will you please stop stealing my job? I'm
sorry, darling.
I'm not
sorry.
here just for my...
You know what I'm
radiant
like?
good
I'm an
looks.
addict. I make it all about me. I can't help it.
Well, I'm here for a reason. I'm not sitting here, you know, because I've got so much other things to do with my Saturday evening. Only because there's a guy on there that's just remembered me from a talk I did at Littledale, so I'm going to have to shout him out in person. That's my excuse anyway. So Thomas James Hughes, Emily Rook was watching, if she was, before, our lovely Emily Rook. Alan Holmes, dear Alan Holmes, he did Littledale years and years ago. I think he now works at Pavilion. And Stuart Hardman. But let me just find Stuart Hardman. Lindsay, I can honestly say Littledale Hall helped me like it did you. 15 months clean. Whoop! And thanks to all the people in recovery. Jason Sardecki, you know him, don't you?
I do. That's my lovely partner in crime.
That's ringing a bell. He's given you a wonderful shout out, Louise, said you are a star. Stuart Hardman, there you go. You say, I'm going to big myself up. If no one else is going to do it, I'm going to do it for myself. Stuart Hardman, I met you, Lindsay, when you came to Littledale Hall with the others from Red Rose to speak about yourself. It was great, thank you. So I'm going to take the credit for his sobriety. Not really, obviously. Absolutely amazing. Littledale Hall continues to save lives constantly, and just amazing. They still support me now. Dirty socks and clothes. That's got to be the Dirty Gecko, has it? Who's that, Peter?
Yeah.
Is that Chris Rowlands?
Yeah, we got up to some crazy things, didn't we, in the past? Yeah, and I saw my passport. Some crazy things, man. He's giving me some stick there about it, isn't he?
Yeah. And why not? Why not? I've just announced to the world, for anybody who didn't know, Peter was now 50. That's 50, everyone. So
50.
Samantha Neen, me being sober, however you guys help me want it. Samantha Neen, help, support is there. It will be the best thing you ever do in your life, sobriety. Trust me, my drinking at Longs like Sarah's was not fun at all. When you vomit, and I'm not going to go back into the grimness of it all. Stuart Watson, Littledale and Red Rose forever. Woo! Another Littledale. Can you tell it's a passion of mine, Red Rose Recovery at Littledale Hall?
We'd never have guessed.
Oh,
Lindsay.
yeah, I see what you mean now, Pete. Remember when you sold your passport as we were chatting about holidays? I think it must be Embarrassed Pete night. What else do we know about Peter that we can tell everyone that they didn't
I'm
know?
just going to kick the ball straight over to Lou. I thought Lou gave a really good account there and a powerful story as well. You know,
Really powerful.
Look at him trying to deflecting. Anybody else got any more embarrassing stories for Pete about Peter Yarwood? Send them in. He's trying to deflect, Lou. Thank you, Lou. That was incredible. Although your internet was a bit breaking up, so that means you have to come back on now.
We still got the message there, Louise. We definitely did.
We did get the message. Thank you. No, we didn't miss it all. It was just those little bits of it breaking up.
I made like fooling myself on here, for God's sake.
Powerful. It was
Can you hear
powerful.
me, Sarah?
We can hear you, darling. Really, it was Louise. It was amazing. You did a great job, darling. And like I say, if people didn't get hope from that, I don't know we don't know where you could.
I hope so. That's all we can do, isn't it?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Louise. Right, Lindsay.
You're welcome.
Who have we got up next?
Well, there's only one guy left on the screen. Poor Gary. I'm saying poor Gary. I have imparted myself in his wonderful cafe. I can't go into details of the stories I booled into his office and was telling him about. It's just not for TV. There might be children watching.
Yeah.
So I apologise in public, but this man, in fact, he had all of Team North bobbied into his cafe last week. It wasn't just me and Sarah, it was all of Team North imposed themselves on it. But what an incredible, lovely man this is. So without further ado, the wonderful Gary Hayes. And you're on mute, Gary. Something else, that's twice. I can wind you up again another 2 times now.
Good evening, everybody. Apologies for poorly operating my laptop. My name's Gary Hayes and I work for First Light Trust. Now, we look after veterans of the armed forces and blue light services. You might think to yourself, well, how does that affect the wider community? We found that veterans of the armed forces have impacted on people's lives, be it family, friends, because of various issues that they have. And families don't know where to go. They don't know what to do because they've got this veteran, this man has been away for years, has now come back into their lives and they don't recognise him. They don't know what to do with him. We do. That's what we do. I shouldn't forget the blue light services because they're now on our books as well. Because life on them is taking its toll. I think police officers today are so tied up with mental health issues that they cannot possibly get around to the day-to-day problems in society that used to get dealt with, whether it be next to a neighbour's dog yapping all night or being burgled. You only have to take one trip to A&E any night of the week, and half the police force is in A&E. And it's something the public don't see. So don't think I'm just looking at veterans. And we support families. We know the difficulties that these lads bring home, these boys and girls, these broken biscuits who've given everything or were willing to give life and limb while we slept in our beds. So let's make no mistake. Let's never forget. They were willing to do what we wanted them to do. So basically we have cafes. That's how we operate. With 6 of them across the country, right down to Portsmouth, right up to that place over at border, Scotland. We have one there. But we don't talk about it very much. So I have Lancaster. Now that covers me. I'm on my own. I cover South Cumbria and the whole of Lancashire. I have over 100 veterans with me, ranging from special services to ladies who worked in the Wrens, you name it. I've got at least one of them. Engineers, Royal Military Policemen, right across the board. There's no part of the armed forces and blue light that aren't looking for help, and we're there. What qualifies me? I'm retired. Well, retirement was brought on for me. I was a police officer, public service for over 20 years. Joined as a cadet at 16, all I ever knew. And it all came to a head one night. I finished work, went to my car, collapsed at work. There was me, 1 minute I'm an ace detective in a Burton's Ready credit suit. Next minute, a month later, I'm unemployed. No help, no nothing, just like soldiers. For those of you who are lucky enough to have a retirement party, plan your retirement, get ready for retirement, talk to your family about your retirement, you are the lucky ones. God forbid you've got a bad back from yomping 30 kilometres with a 30-kilo bag on your back to go and fight the enemy. That's what they do, soldiers. And surprise, surprise, 10 years later, they've got a bad back. What happens? Bye now. That's the fact. These boys and girls haven't a clue. 1 minute they're not paying for food. Well, they do pay, it comes out of the wages. They've got a roof over their head, 3 or 4 square meals a day. When they're not working, as much drink as they can possibly get down their neck. And then all of a sudden, they have to come across things like council tax, gas, electric, water bills. They haven't a clue. This is what we're there for. We pick them up. You might say to yourself, well, what separates me from Royal British Legion? SAFA. The difference is I'm on the high street. I'm the next. I'm the bank on the high street. I'm there. You come in, we can spot you a million miles away if you're a veteran. We know. We understand before you even open your mouth what the problem's probably going to be. Poor transition. You're up to your eyeballs in debt. We will take you on board. We'll give you that hope you've been talking about all night. That hope. I'll give it you. There's nothing that you're going to tell me that's going to upset me. And I don't judge you. I've been you. As I say, I left the police, poor transition. What happened? Same as the veterans. I drank. Had a great friend, alcohol. 22 years. And like Lindsay, same thing. Liver went. So, firstly, can I say well done to everybody who makes a choice to give up. You're stronger than me. Mine was forced on me. The fickle finger of fate decided my time wasn't up. Like Lindsay, I remember looking down, having a wee. And the first thing I saw, when I was looking down there, I thought, my God, I could have been a porn star. But I thought to myself, that's no way to go, Gary. Let's rebuild our life. So I did. And I didn't become a porn star. I rehearsed. So back to our veterans. When they come in, it's usually everyday occurrences, which is your debt. It's mental health problems, PTSD, feeling worthless, feeling lost, depression, anxiety. Because of the Armed Forces Covenant, which I strongly suggest everyone has a look at, it's a powerful piece of legislation and it looks after our veterans. There's a lot of help out there and we're under the Armed Forces Covenant. We have access to money. This is where you come to me, I'll put you at ease, then I will talk to SAFA. They know us. You'll be talking to them. If you're a veteran, SAFA, British Legion will be faceless because they're not at the end of a telephone. I will do that for you. Every First Light hub will do that for you. Just because I'm on holiday, somebody will be in touch with you. So this is what we provide. It's on the street. You can come in and have a cup of coffee. The other side of First Light is we have retreat rooms. You come and, if you're used to us, you come and sit in there. The veterans come in, the police officers use it. You come and have a cup of coffee and a piece of cake. Can I say to you professionals out there, if you need to hide somewhere, believe me, the Red Rose girls do. You come and hide, have a cup of coffee. Chris, your staff, we have the housing staff, we have Lancaster City Council. They've had enough. They've had enough for bang, 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 bang. Nobody ever rings them up and says you've won the lottery. It's all, when that phone rings, it's always going to be bloody earache. They come and sit with us. They have a cup of coffee. They meet the veterans. I don't ring them up, don't ring their superiors up and say they've been Skyping. It doesn't happen like that. We're glad to see you. So can I just say, if you're in Lancaster, come and see us. We're not hard to find. Come and sit, have a bit of cake and a coffee, And I swear you'll go away and you'll know a lot more. And I'm sure the girls from Red Rose will vouch for that. Where do I cover? As I say, I cover South Cumbria and the whole of Lancashire. You may think it's a lot of travelling. Just a phone call is all some people need. Just a phone call to find out where we are. And when they come through, they find other veterans in the cafe. They mix together. They insult each other. Veterans, unbelievably, are so politically correct and so wrong in every way. But that's how they were in the army. I know every abusive term for every regiment. What a skill to have. Sorry if I keep looking at it. By the way, if the internet plays up, will somebody wave and let me know? And I'll bring it to an end pretty quickly. So I've gone through the transition. If we have a veteran coming in, any of you out there think that you need more support, we still do that. If it's beyond my remit, and I can tell pretty quickly, I've done the safeguarding like everybody else, I have the qualification. If I know it's above my remit, we refer the veterans to the bigger agencies. The NHS Military Veterans Service, they are brilliant. They are good. I pass you on. If it's to do with if it's a huge debt problem, we'll do it with the British Legion for you. As I said earlier, whatever the problem is, and if we can't deal with it, we know somebody who will. And the general idea is, at first light, I will pass you on to another agency. I'm working well at them, and I'd like to think I'm working well with Sarah, with one of my veterans. I'm taking him a giant step, and I've trusted Red Rose with this. And this has come around by fate. The fickle finger of fate put me and Sarah with this particular veteran. I've every confidence of getting a result with this lad. I've every confidence. And I didn't know which way to turn until I met Sarah at Red Rose. And in the space of 2 weeks, we might just get a result. But when these veterans improve, we don't just leave them, we keep them. What we find is most important is activities. We've got to keep these lads occupied mentally. Sitting at home watching the rain not tell you is not good. We organise walks in the lakes. We organise fishing trips. We've got five-a-side football teams. To the older end, we've got modelling clubs. We do coffee and a chat for the really old veterans who want to talk about career and things like that. The words that somehow get forgotten. We ring them up. We do as much as we can to keep in touch with them. We encourage them to come with us. And to be honest, I've got a great group of lads, and they themselves are helping the other veterans when they arrive. I've probably missed some of the things out that I wanted to say. So, as I say, go back to hope. In essence, we offer hope on the high street. That's what we're there for. So, if you're coming across a veteran in the professionals, please think First Light, even if it's only for advice, because you won't know how to deal with them. They're a unique set of what I would say recovering problemists. They are unique. They have a pride that's very difficult to understand. The camaraderie is something you will never, ever understand as long as we live. If they don't see each other for years, they're joined at the hip. And we understand this, and we understand how they operate, and we know where to signpost them. We have our own counsellors. We do not refer them to the NHS. We have our own. Everything's kept in-house. We only go outside when we feel we need to. So I think I've just about covered everything that we do. As you say, it's Friday night, Saturday night, it's 7:15. You certainly don't listen to me telling stories about when I was a porn star. So off with that.
Thank you, Gary. Honestly, you never fail to crack me up, Gary. You really don't. Thank you so much for coming on. Do you know what I can say personally? I've spent quite a bit of time with Gary and the guys at First Light, and they do an amazing job. Again, this is a real example of a charity, that understands what the needs are. These guys are getting down and dirty in the trenches. Did you see what I did there? Did you like that? Getting down in the trenches, with people. They understand the people that are walking in there. They've got that specialist knowledge. And like Gary said, and like we've discussed all night, there are some very niche things, you know, there are complex needs out there by people. And that's the great thing, you know, I think when we find other charities that are open to working with each other, sharing that knowledge and understanding that each of us, we don't know it all, none of us do, you know, and it's by finding and building these relationships with other charities, you know, with other places, you know, that's how collectively we can get together and help. You know, like Gary said, you know, me and Gary have been doing some great work, you know, with veterans and things, you know, so we'll always be in there, you know, trying to work with people, you know, with drugs and alcohol. Similarly, you know, if we've got veterans in ours, you know, we know where to send them now. I've got no problem referring people, you know, to Gary and anybody else at First Light. They truly do understand people and they truly are there to help. And they've got some great connections themselves, you know. I've been in there and, you know, they can help to turn people's benefits around in a day. You know, if somebody's homeless and they haven't got anywhere to stay, you know, Gary will find them somewhere to stay that night. You know, there is no veteran or, you know, anybody from a blue light service, you know, that ever has to have nowhere to turn. You know, definitely get in touch with the guys at First Light. And even if you're not a veteran, go down for the cake and coffee. I can totally vouch for the fact that the coffee's really good.
I was in there the other day and these ladies walked past. Cringe it was, but the two ladies, Jill, and I always keep forgetting the other lady's name, but she made banging scones. Can I just put that out there? Unfortunately, I was on a diet, but these three ladies walked past and they sort of walked past, and then, in fact, I'd told Gary about this. They were in with Ginge, as I was wanting to call him, but apparently I wasn't allowed to call him Ginge because Noah was a civilian. But they were off to court and there was a very important looking man with Gary and I was just being me as usual. But these three ladies walked past and went, "Oh, you can't go in there, it's for down and outs." I thought, well, I was sat in the window with my laptop, so I thought,
didn't know how to take that, Lindsay.
So they mean me. And I was thinking, I thought I looked quite smart. But anyway, they came back and like, "Oh, well, do you have a coffee machine?" Well, yeah, we're a cafe. And they make, you know, it's not shop bought, they make fabulous cake. And I mean, even the lady that works behind Jill, what a wonderful lady. She's the counselling qualification she's got, and it's just a fabulous space. They've got all the memorabilia in there and all the helmets and the uniforms and the thing. And Lizzie, who's just messaged me, what's it called? It's First Light Lizzie in Lancaster, the one that I've been in. The flat white is banging, and trust me, I've drinking gallons of flat white, and that's one of the best I've ever had. Yeah. So it's not just for veterans, it is a cafe and it is absolutely fabulous, and the people that work there are absolutely fabulous, including Gary, who's, well, I can say I'm really tempted to say the discussions that me and Gary had. And I was thinking, I've only met him once.
They're not for the live forum, those discussions, I don't think.
Probably not, no. But I mean, one of them, I think we discussed serial killers and Princess Anne within quite a short space of time, because Gary had some stories about Princess Anne, which I probably shouldn't say on here, but it was absolutely incredible. Really positive stuff, I have to say. The bit I came out with about the man out of the homeless shelter wasn't, and probably put Gary off his tea. But yeah, it's just an incredible. And I went up to Littledale in a Red Rose capacity back in February, before we discovered, thankfully to Sarah, about First Light. And I remember a guy, and I do believe his name was Sam Griffiths, and I think he was he said, "Is there anything for veterans?" And I went, "Unfortunately not." And we always encourage people to start new groups, like the lady I was saying about that was selling herself and was living in a toilet. Start your own group. You know, we haven't got anything for veterans. Obviously, had I known about the fabulous work of First Light back then, I would have said, I know exactly the man you need to go and see, Bob and see Gary.
Can I point out that Sam is now one of my boys?
There we go.
Oh, I'm so pleased, because I know he sort of he came into Red Rose, and I've seen him on an odd group, but I didn't. Oh, I'm so pleased.
Well, it's still an old detective thing. I still pick up on whispers, and the minute the word veteran comes out, even at 200 yards, my liver's knackered, but my ears are brilliant. I can pick up on a whisper.
We've got so much in common, Gary.
Can Can I just say as well that you know, that really highlights as well, doesn't it? You know, when you're talking about these ladies that are walking past and you had somebody say, you know, that's for down and outs. Those are the challenges that we're facing every day. You know, that's the stigma there, and that's the thing that we're trying to get rid of. That's what we're trying to shatter. Do you know, those viewpoints of people? Do you know, and it's and I don't think these people are bad people. Do you know, I think it's a lack of knowledge. You know, it's a lack of the fact that, you know, we don't our paths don't always cross. Do you know, with other people in society, these other people in our communities. And do you know what, when we all get together, we realize that we've all got a lot more in common than we would think. You know, we really have. That's why I would encourage everybody, you know, even if you're not a veteran, to go down to First Light, go into the cafe, you know, see what these things are all about.
I was going to say, anyone walking through Lancaster City Centre most days, once I've finished my groups, I will be probably sit in amongst those down and outs, because I've volunteered in Edward Street in Lancaster since 2019. So I do know most of them, and they will shout me from the other end of Lancaster, know most of them by name. They're drinking, and I was thinking, oh, they're just, excuse my French, pissheads. I'm thinking, well, I'm one of them, if that's how you want to describe us. What makes me different to them? Yeah. You know, I mean, my drinking was sat at home in my own whistle rather than sat in Lancaster City Centre in my own whistle. But what makes me, I'm an addict. Yeah. You know,
it just goes to show, you know, addiction comes in many forms.
Absolutely, you know,
does. And it's classless as well. Do you know, I mean, you know, we deal with people from all areas of life, you know, people that are on the streets, high functioning people as well, you know, doctors, you know, surgeons, you know, people, you know, that would generally be respected in our communities. You know, it knows no boundaries. Addiction knows no boundaries, and neither does mental health. Yeah, guys, I've had a great show today. I think this has been lovely.
I've loved it.
This has been really good. Thank you so much to all of our guests: Robin, Willie, Lou, Gary, Chris, Peter. We've lost. I think his tea was burning, so he had to run away.
Yeah, I'm sure he mentioned turning off his potatoes at the beginning, but he clearly had it. I'm just imagining Emma coming rushing in and shouting, "Peter, you've burnt the tea!" And Chris Rowlands, as a final comment, has just put, Chris Rowlands, he's stayed tuned from the first one on to the, I'm sure he makes a bet with himself, because he's always first on and last off. Oh no, you've just pipped Samantha Neen, being as amazing as Chris Rowlands. I'd rather speak to down and outs than fakes and snakes. Absolutely.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So I think hopefully everybody's learned a lot tonight about, you know, what services we've got going on in the local community, you know, and where you can go for help. You know, so just to recap, you know, we've got Robin here, you know, at the Stanley Road Community Centre. If you did miss how to get in touch with anybody that's been on here or anything like that, you know, get in touch with us at Red Rose. We can refer you to these people. We can let you know where they are. So we've got Stanley Road Community Centre, and all the veterans, anybody in the Blue Light Services, Gary Hayes at First Light Trust is definitely your man.
And our lady who, I'm not sure why she didn't come on, but just a quick shout out to the fantastic Jan Gomez from
Positive Futures
up at the White Cross estate.
Yeah,
they do incredible work. I'm not sure why she didn't come on, but that is another place, the cafe, the food, and I went up there the other day and had a most incredible meal and a drink for about £4. And it was just incredible. And the work they do up there is amazing. So I will shout out Positive Futures, because they were a big part of my recovery as well.
Yeah.
So hopefully
amazing.
Back on.
Right. Well, I suppose it's time to wrap up, guys.
Yeah.
So I hope everybody has enjoyed it. Thank you so much, everybody, for giving your time, you know, and coming on here and connecting with us. And everybody at home, thank you for watching. Everybody continue to like and share. You know, this will be staying on Facebook. You know, we do want to get it out to as many people as possible. So continue to like and share. Like I say, if there was anything that you missed tonight, anything that you want more information on, contact us at Red Rose. You know, we're here for you. Yeah, and have a great Saturday night, everybody.
And it's coming home.
I knew it. I knew I wasn't going to get away with it until somebody did it.
I hope so.
And I don't know, it was going to be you, Lindsay.
Lucky guess, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah. All right, so thank you very much, guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Bye, love.
Thank guys.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.